When the US military media categorically declared that China would abandon nuclear-powered aircraft carriers forever, did they ever really understand the revolutionary codes hidden in the welding arcs on the banks of the Huangpu River? In April 2025, the US website 1945 published a feature article entitled, "China May Never Build a Nuclear-Powered Aircraft Carrier," which asserted, in an indisputable manner, that not only would China not build a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier of the Type 004 model in the near future, it would even abandon this technology route permanently. In a tone of disbelief, it asserted that not only would China not build the Type 004 nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the near future, but that it would even permanently abandon this technology route, with its core argument focusing on the triple dilemma of technological generational differences, limited strategic needs, and cost disadvantages. However, when the satellite camera penetrates the canopy of Jiangnan shipyard, capturing the 85-meter wide flight deck segments, when the island of the Dalian dockyard design completely disappeared on the flue structure, and thickened by 35% of the radiation shielding layer jumped to the paper, when the Shandong Fleet Formation in the western Pacific Ocean, a 1,500 nautical mile deep exercise in training trails, a set of carefully constructed cognitive barriers in the West is the most important thing. The cognitive barriers carefully constructed by the West are falling apart in front of the realistic logic of China's military-industrial innovation. The technological threshold of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers is certainly high, but the US media deliberately rendered the generation gap theory has selectively ignored China's multi-dimensional breakthroughs. US experts have repeatedly emphasized China's shortcomings in the field of naval reactor miniaturization, but turned a blind eye to Gansu Wuwai's fourth-generation, thorium-based molten salt reactor project. This reactor, fueled by China's thorium reserves, accounted for 18% of the world's power density up to the traditional pressurized water heap 3.2 times, which will allow the carrier to sail at full power for 30 years without the need to change the material, fundamentally solving the pain point of ocean-going voyage. More noteworthy is the Shanghai Nuclear Engineering Research and Design Institute disclosed, Linglong, C version, of the technical parameters: diameter 7.4 meters, height 12.3 meters of compact modular design. The output power exceeded 280 megawatts, fully meet the 100,000-ton aircraft carrier's 30 knots of speed requirements. And in the Dalian shipyard, out of the 004 type structure chart, double bottom of the 1.8 meters height difference between the reserved is for the liquid metal cooling pipeline laying ready for the engineering margin. This beyond the traditional pressurized water reactor technology route choice precisely proved that China's been the road to overtake the wisdom. The so-called China does not need nuclear-powered aircraft carriers is actually a typical misjudgment of the rise of sea power misinterpreted by land power thinking. When the article in 1945 characterized the Chinese Navy as a coastal defense force, it deliberately ignored two sets of key data. By 2024, the total tonnage of China's ocean-going merchant fleet will exceed 320 million deadweight tons, which will be responsible for 23% of the world's container traffic, and the security needs of 350 key projects along the Belt and Road have spawned a normalized escort system that covers the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. When the Fujian ship completed a single day of 207 carrier aircraft takeoff and landing maneuvers in a complex electromagnetic environment, its electromagnetic catapult peak energy consumption of 78 megawatts, equivalent to 200,000 households using electricity at the same time. The only way to satisfy this constant energy hunger is with a nuclear-powered platform. Hidden projections in the Pentagon's 2025 China Military Power Assessment show that if China delays launching its nuclear carrier program until 2035, it will miss a critical window of reconfiguration of power in the Western Pacific in 2040. By that time, U.S. deployment of sixth-generation naval aircraft and directed energy weapon systems could create a generational suppression advantage. The double-standard nature of the cost argument is exposed in the industry chain comparison. While U.S. experts emphasize the $13 billion cost of the Ford class, they avoid the abnormally high cost of the $98 hourly wage of welders at the Newport News shipyard, equivalent to 8 times the salary of a senior technician in China. In fact, China's shipbuilding industry is reconstructing the value formula with the advantages of the whole industrial chain, the giant section construction method adopted by Jiangnan Shipyard in Shanghai, making the pre-outfitting rate of Type 004 segments reach 92%, which is 37 percentage points higher than that of the Ford class. The yield strength of the high 130 special steel developed by Anshan Iron and steel group reaches 890 megapascals, and the purchasing cost is only 65% of the same class in the US. And what is even more critical is the breakthrough of the electromagnetic catapulting system, Ma Wuming's team's medium voltage DC technology route, which boosts energy conversion efficiency to 92%, with 4,600 cycles between failures, a 5.3-fold improvement over the Ford's electromagnetic catapult. This has revolutionized Type 004's whole life cycle cost. The 30-year no-replacement feature of the thorium-based molten salt reactor saves $1.2 billion in fuel costs. The highly efficient catapult system reduces maintenance costs by 40%, and the modular design shortens the mid-life overhaul period to 18 months. The technical details of Type 004, revealed by satellite images, constitute the strongest rebuff to the Western skepticism. In Jiangnan Shipyard's Phase II dock, the 330-meter-long hull is built in a unique, three-island segmentation. 20 hypersonic missile drogue units are set up at the bow of the ship. The central hangar has a net height of 9.2 meters to accommodate the folded wings of the Airborne Police 600 early warning aircraft, and the aft of the ship is reserved for the maintenance of large unmanned carrier aircraft. The 85-meter wide flight deck is designed to surpass the Ford class, and the structural optimization of moving the island back 15 meters allows the angled deck to deploy the fourth electromagnetic catapult. This set of superconducting energy storage capacitor hybrid power supply system, developed by 703rd Institute of XIC, can complete the 90 megajoule energy reserve within 45 seconds, ensuring the extreme ejection rhythm of 3 times per minute. Below deck, a more secretive technological revolution is being nurtured. The reactor compartment adopts hexagonal honeycomb structure composite armor, and the shielding effectiveness of neutron radiation has been increased to 2.3 times of the traditional materials. The quantum communication array carried by the whole ship realizes the direct connection with the Beidou 3 satellite at the level of 100G through 128 embedded nodes on the deck, and the shipborne energy network adopts the 3-stage power distribution structure innovatively, which can supply energy to the 200 kW laser anti-missile system, and also provide power for the 200 kW laser anti-missile system, and provide power for the 200 kW laser anti-missile system. The shipboard energy network innovatively adopts 3-stage power distribution architecture, which can supply energy for 200 kilowatt class laser anti-missile system, and implement 60 MHz wireless charging to underwater unmanned submersible vehicles. These technologies together constitute what the U.S. Center for Naval Analyses calls the first 6th-generation maritime warfare node. Looking back at the history of aircraft carrier development, the choice of technology routes often determines the direction of the change of sea power. 1949 British Admiralty asserted that jet aircraft and aircraft carriers are incompatible, and was forced to make up for the decision-making mistakes with vertical takeoff and landing fighters in the Falklands War. The Soviet Union's development of aircraft carrying cruisers in the 1980s, a compromise route, and ultimately the Kuznetsov was reduced to the lack of support for the system of the island at sea. Now China's 004 type on the display of technical vigor, essentially the shape of the sea war on the perspective layout, when the ship carried hypersonic missiles range breakthrough 1,500 kilometers, when the Dark Sword unmanned combat aircraft to achieve Mach 6 speed of surprise defense. The traditional carrier battle group of the radius of the attack and defense has been completely reconfigured. In the welding sparks flashing on the banks of the Huangpu River, in the deep blue trails off the coast of Lingshui, Hainan, Type 004 carries far more than a simple upgrade of military equipment. It is the 4th generation of nuclear technology, and quantum information systems at sea verification platform is the distributed kill chain concept of the physical carrier, but also civilized countries to break through the sea power dilemma of the strategic pivot. When the U.S. Secretary of the Navy insisted in a congressional hearing that China's nuclear aircraft carrier program has been terminated, the new position of nuclear power plant radiation safety engineer on the recruitment column of Dalian Shipbuilding Heavy Industry Group's official website, as well as the suddenly encrypted academic conference on thermal engineering and hydraulics of shipboard molten salt reactors at the Shanghai Jiaotong University, are silently reconfiguring the balance of power in the Pacific Ocean. The trajectory of the keel of this steel beast will eventually become the most shocking footnote of the transfer of sea power in the 21st century. In the game of blue chess, the real players never change their moves due to the clamor of the observers.